Friends. So we're going to record some scenes. Scene 1, SpongeBob running right. Scene 2, he runs left. Scene 3, he goes down and gets wider, so it looks like he's running towards us. So let's go to p5js, SpongeBob starter code, linked in the comments. Make sure you go file duplicate. And then check out the images. So we've got Krusty Krab, Pineapple, and Bikini as our backgrounds. And then we've got Sponge right, Sponge left, and Sponge front as our characters or sprites. So we're using remove.bg to remove the backgrounds. Use Google Slides, go to Format Options, Size Rotation, Flip to flip left and flip right. And then you can remove the background again to put it into your p5js code. So I go to the JavaScript file, let's run it. So SpongeBob's running to the right. He's way too big. So we need to think about SpongeBob's size as well as his X and Y coordinates. So we're going to change the parameters of our image function, which is on line 26 in the code right here. So let's see, I've got the file is sponge right. The X coordinate is A, which we're changing, it's a variable, and the Y coordinate is 100. And then I'm going to put a width and a height. So let's set it at 50 to start with. There we go. Now SpongeBob is really teeny tiny. Okay. And then let's just play around with that and increase it. So increase it to 100 to get his size right. It's a bit better. Let's go a little bit bigger. 130. That's good. Okay, and now we need to move SpongeBob down. So he's down on the road. So let's change the Y value. Here we go. Let's try 150. That's further down. That's better. A little bit more. Let's go to 200. That's a bit better. A little bit more. 230. Almost. 250. So close. 260. Let's see how that goes. Perfect. Okay, so if I go to my Sponge right file, I can actually see the width and the height of it. If I go to properties, I can go to details and I can see the width and height. So width 519, height 481. So I'm actually gonna use that to keep the proportions for my width and height in my code. If I go up to the top where I load the image, it's helpful to put a comment, so // and then actually type the dimensions to remind myself. So the dimensions are 519 by 481. Okay, and then I'm going to use those to maintain SpongeBob's proportions when I set his size in the animation. Right, I don't want to squash him or stretch him. So then down where I'm actually drawing the image, right now I've got a width of 130, a height of 130. To be absolutely correct with my aspect ratio, what I should do is divide that width by 519, which is the width of the image file. Okay, and then once I've divided by 519, then I should multiply by 481. Okay, which is the height of the original image file. And then just make sure that my parenthesis is closed correctly, so there's no red lines. Let's run that. Let's see how that works. There we go. So his proportions are perfect now. And that's just a reminder of the image proportions. We're looking for the width and the height, and then we're making a note using a comment, and then we're going to do a calculation. Divide by the width, multiply by the height to keep the proportions perfect. You could do that on a calculator and just get a number, 120, but you'll see that it's useful to do the calculation. Later on, we're going to change the width. And so we're going to want to do the calculation in our code. All right, so I'm gonna undo. So I keep that calculation there. I'm going to use that later. So right now, SpongeBob runs right, and then it says scene when he gets to the right. That's because I'm using my A value, and if A hits 800 or is greater than 800, it's going to show scene. What we're going to do is we're going to use a variable called count. Okay, no particular reason, but think of a counter. And if I make a comment here, // that's SpongeBob's X position, all right? And that's in scene 1 for now. And Pineapple is the background. Okay, let's put comments so we understand what everything is. Background in scene 1. Sponge right is the SpongeBob character or sprite, like the SpongeBob character in scene 1. Okay, and then count, let's put a comment for that. We're going to use that, it's a variable, and we're going to use it like a timer. So variable used as a timer. Okay, and you'll see what this means as we work on the code. So now down underneath, we're adding 5 to A to make Spongebob move to the right, and A starts at 0. Let's set a start value for count up here. So count equals 0, semicolon. And then let's put comments here as well, / start value of A. All right. And then actually let's put in parentheses here. That's called the initial value of A, right? So we initialize our variables when we set the start value of our variables. And then count has a start value of 0. So start value of count is 0. There we go. And then down inside our draw function, what we're going to do is each time the draw function runs, we're going to add 1 to count. So count equals count plus 1. And then I think I need a semicolon here and here. Okay. Sometimes it forgives you for not putting a semicolon, but you should already have one. And then instead of using A, we're going to use count. And then when count hits a certain value, then we'll end the scene. So let's try count going up to 50, see how that works. Let's give that a run. So you can see that scene pops up really quickly. Okay, so let's change that number to something a little bit bigger. Count is greater than 150. So now, there we go. Scene pops up when Spongebob gets to the end of the screen. So that's just right. Okay, so scene 1, he moves to the right. Scene 2, we want the background to be his pineapple house, and then he moves to the left. So let's make those changes in the code. Oh, whoops. I called the first background pineapple. That was a mistake, wasn't it? Because it's actually Krusty Krab. So let's quickly make that change now. So I've got that variable called pineapple. Let's change that to Krusty. So let Krusty, the background in scene 1. And then I'm going to, where I load the image, I'm going to change that to Krusty is load image is Krusty. There we go. And then when I draw the image, I'm going to change that from background pineapple to background Krusty. Okay, so the background for my canvas is going to be Krusty. Now I'm going to delete all of that code that prints the scene message, okay, because I don't want the scene message. And what I'm going to do is instead of that, I'm going to change the background and I'm going to draw a new image. So instead of drawing the Krusty background for my next scene, I'm going to draw the pineapple background. Okay. And then I need to make a variable and load an image file for that. So I'm going to copy my let Krusty and I'm going to paste it underneath, Control V. I'll change that to let pineapple. So now that's the background for my scene 2. Okay, and then I'm going to load the image for that. So I'm going to copy this line of code, Control C, hit enter, and then Control V, paste it. And then let's change that to pineapple. And then the image file for that is called, let's check over on the left and get the exact correct name. Just make that bigger. Double click, select the file name, pineapple.png, Control C, copy it, and then Control V, paste it right here. There we go. So image is pineapple.png. And then I need my other SpongeBob character, which is going to be SpongeBob going left. So if I copy that line, Control C, and then paste it below, Control V, I'm going to change that to Sponge left.
Don't interrupt me a second. Give me a second. I'll get a coffee now.
And then I'm going to hit enter here. And then I'm going to, Sponge left. Okay, so I've got a variable called Sponge left, and that's the SpongeBob character in scene 2. And then I'm loading Sponge left. I need to get the right image file here. So Sponge left, just double click on that, copy it, Control C, and then go to my JavaScript file, paste it, Control V. There we go. So that's my Sponge left image. And then if I go down to my draw function at the bottom, So when count is greater than 150, let's now change the image to sponge left. Okay, so the background will be pineapple. We're going to have image sponge left. Now, instead of adding 5 to A, so my character moves to the right, and then adding 1 to count so that the time moves forwards, I'm going to do something similar. Let me fix the indentation. I can't fix the indentation. Okay, never mind about that for now. Let's paste our A plus 5 and our count plus 1. But now, let's see, because Spongebob is going to go to the left. So it shouldn't be A plus 5. It should be A minus 5 to make him go to the left. Okay? So, actually, that didn't work either. So what I'm going to do is I put a print statement here. So it prints SpongeBob's A position. And look, it's stuck at 750. And I'm realizing what's happening is because I'm adding 5 to A up above and then I'm subtracting it down below. So A is getting stuck at 750. And I need to fix this by putting a if-else statement for count between 0 and 150. And the starter code, you can actually go to the fresh starter code for this in the comments, right? So if count's between 0 and 150, I'm going to move right with the crusty background. And if count is between 150 and 300, I'm going to move left with the scene 1, he moves right. Scene 2, he moves left. That's good. That's exactly what we want. Okay, so scene 1, scene 2, and then scene 3, we want him to move down and get bigger. So I'm going to copy this whole else if statement here. Control C, Control V, paste it below. And then we're going to, let's see, we want our, for count value that's greater than or equal to 300 and less than 400. There we go. And then I'm going to have the background is going to be my, let's check what's it called. There you go, bikini bottom, right? So I'm going to call the background bikini. So I'll type that here. Okay, sorry it's a little bit slow typing every step, folks, but it's good for you to do this too because you'll get all your reps in at typing. Okay, and then my image on that third scene is going to be sponge front. All right, and now remember bikini and sponge front; those are just variable names, right? So I need to actually declare those up at the top. Okay, so I'll go up to the very top. I'm gonna let bikini semicolon / for a comment, and then that's going to be the background. Copy that. That's going to be the background for scene 3. Awesome. And then let's copy that whole line. So paste that, and then sponge front. Sponge front is the variable that's going to be it's going to hold the SpongeBob character for scene 3. Okay, let's put some line spaces in there just to help organize this stuff. And then I want to load that image file. So I'm copying this line and then I'm pasting it underneath, and then sponge front, right? So same variable name, that's going to be load image. And I want to get the correct file name for that. So click on it, double click it, Control C, copy it back to the JavaScript, Control V to paste that name, spongefront.png. Okay. And then I also want to load my bikini bottom image. So just check bikini. It's a good practice to Control C, Control V, copy paste, right? Because then I avoid typos. So my variable is called bikini, and then my image, it's gonna be bikini.png over on the left. Okay, double click on it, select it, Control C, copy it, go over here, Control V, paste it. All right. So getting our reps in and making these edits. And then let's see, bikini, sponge front. That's right. Okay, now what I need here though is let's see, let's just play around with the A value to start with. So his X coordinate is going to be A. Let's just add 5 to that so he moves to the right, and let's just see what that looks like for now. So he goes right in scene 1, he goes left in scene 2. Okay, he goes right in scene 3. So I've got the correct image and the correct background. It's just the movement's wrong. I want him to start in the middle of the town. So I actually need to set his y coordinate as well, which is his height on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a variable for his y coordinate. So I'm going to say let, what comes after A? B. There we go. Let B, and then that's going to be SpongeBob's y position in scene 3, right? We're starting to use it in scene 3. And then I want to set a start value for it. It's I got a right now it's starting at 260. I'm going to change that to B, right? So that's the variable that's going to change his height. And then let's see, I could set his start B value up here where I'm initializing A. So let's do that. Let's try that. So this is the start value of B. So B equals 0. That's the start value of B. All right. And then let's run that. Let's see what happens. So he goes right, he goes left. Now there we go, because B was 0. He's starting at the top of the screen and he's moving right. But now we want him to start in the middle of the town. We don't want him to move right at all, do we? So I'll delete that. And then what I want to do is I want him to move down. So B equals B minus, no, that's wrong, B plus, right? Because Y starts at 0 at the top of the screen. So if I add to the Y value, he'll go down. So B plus 1. I'll delete that print statement for now. I don't need that anymore. Let's tidy it up, get rid of it. So B equals B plus 1 should make him go down the screen in the third scene. So let's see. There we go. All right, so he drifts down the screen. So now I just need to fix his start value at the start of scene 3. So let's see. I could set the start value of B up here. Okay. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to show you how to set the start value for a scene using an else if statement. So if we copy this else if statement here, Control C, and then I'm going to paste it just up above, Control V, and then we're going to make a condition where count equals 300. So let's delete that. So if count equals 300, what we're going to do is we're going to set the A and B values where we want him to start at that instant, and then when count's greater than 300, we're going to carry on animating him. So let's set the B value. So B equals, let's try this out, 200. So that's going to move him down the screen a bit. Now 100. Here we go. Let's try 100. And then we want a start value of A as well. It's going to put him over in kind of in the middle of the screen, in the middle of that town there. So A equals 200. And then, that should say count equals 300. So when it's comparing count to 300, it should say equals. But when we're setting the value of a variable, it's just a single equals, right? It's actually it's a different thing. When you're assigning a value or where you're comparing, it's different, all right? And then we're going to just increase count. And then this one, we're going to fix it so that if count is greater than 300, all right? So if count's equal to 300, it sets the value of A and B. And if count's greater than 300, it's going to animate. Let's see. There we go. So he started kind of in the middle, and then he moved down a bit. So that's working. We just need to tweak those values. So let's play around with those numbers a little bit. So I don't know. Let's make the A value 300, and then let's make the B value, move them down a little bit further, 150. Let's run that. Let's see if that works. Left. There we go. All right, so he kind of started in the middle and drifted down. So that looks pretty good. Now we want to change his width to make him get bigger so it looks like he's moving towards us. So that 130, right now that's a constant. It's a constant value of 130. Let's make it a variable. So we're going to put in another variable. So up at the top, we're going to declare a variable, copy that, paste that. Now instead of B, let's make it W, because it's going to be SpongeBob's width. There we go. SpongeBob's width in scene 3. And then what was the start value for his width? So 130, that seemed good. That was working. So where we initialize the variable, I'm going to copy that. I'm going to put W equals 130. There we go. So that's the start or initial value of W. There we go. So I'm going to initialize that. Scroll down and let's work with it. Okay, so let's see. So now instead of 130, I'm going to replace that constant with my variable w, and then I want the width to increase. So w equals w plus 1. So every time my draw function runs, the width is going to increase. Let's see what happens. Go. So it should look like he's getting closer. He gets wider. Oh, whoopsie! But he's getting stretched. His width is changing, but his height isn't. So that's where this calculation that we did earlier on helps out. So instead of dividing 130 and then multiplying, we're gonna start with w. So if we divide w by 519 and then multiply by 481, it should give us his exact height as his width changes. Quick recap. So each of these else if statements is making a scene. So moving right, moving left, and then these last two else if statements. The first one is setting his start position, and then the second one is making him move down and increase his width. Now you try getting your three scenes working and then customize the images.